Now in this session, the first thing I want to do is rough out this block. I've got it all just tack glued in place, tack glued up along here, up along what is amounting to be our test block. That's the test molding block. Tack glued up here, and what I want to do, I'm not interested in anything but just getting the rough shape that I want here. I just want the rough contour on the outside shape. Now anytime I carve anything, brand new blade, lock it in position. Can't tell you how much time you waste when you don't have a good blade. You can't do good work without a good blade. At least I can't. And what I'm going to try to do here is just roughly following the grain, always following the grain. Just lop off all the big pieces here. I don't want to get it even close to the fuselage side. As soon as I get close, well, I'll put a piece of tape on there just to make sure I don't get down into the fuselage side. Now the only purpose the tape serves is so I don't get a knife stuck right in the edge of this, which if I'm not paying attention, or actually anybody paying attention, you can get through that. Nice thin slices with a brand new blade. Always carving with the grain. Knife, don't want the knife on a 90-degree angle. Maybe a 30 or 40-degree angle, so you get them, the slivers to just slide right off. Now this is a relatively hard piece of wood, so we're just going to take it nice and easy here. This is definitely not a 4-pound piece of wood. Working my way right down to the corner, still taking a lot of thin pieces off. Just taking on the roughing side here, rough out. The more of the corner you can take off before you start actually making a shape, the better off you are. Then I'll get right up to the tape, but I won't touch it. I want to leave this just a little bit oversized. And just work my contour right into the spinner fit. Now I get down to the last few, I call them ice shavings. This little area around the front where it transitions from the spinner in, I want to get a nice gradual curve up here. And I'm just doing it by taking ice shavings off at this time. I found the dowel that has just about the right radius. I still have the tape on here. I want to get that radius in there before I even take the tape off and do the blend on that side. Remember, all these parts are made just a couple of thousandths oversized. The object of it all is so that when we get all done, we can assemble a whole thing in the individual model and then sand the last couple of thousandths off, and everything will be a perfect fit, right to within a silly millimeter. So there's dust out of here. I'm going right up to the tape. This corner here I have to do the blend yet. I like to do as much as I can with the carbon knife and as little with the sandpaper because I hate breathing the dust. Now use that little Bob Martin's block just to get this last little contour in here. And as soon as I get it real close, then I can take the tape off and go over to some smoother sandpaper. This is really rough sandpaper. Again, if everything is a little bit oversized, the final model I can get all the joints in just the way I want them. Think if you could build a model and the next time we built a plane, we didn't have to do anything except mold the blocks. You'd knock 10 hours off of building a plane. Plus you'd knock an ounce off. So I really am psyched about trying to make this as useful as possible, a useful real world tool, not some space age thing that nobody can take advantage of. Now with the tape off, I can just dress these edges down. Trying not to thin the parts out if I possibly can help it. Now it's easy right now. I just tape the spinner in position, and hopefully Joe will get some more of these spinners. We'll find out. If he doesn't, of course, we'll have to improvise and redo the nose a little bit. But we're making everything just a little bit bigger than it has to be. And I want to just get the side view look that I want. I want that contour. I don't want this to go in and I want it to have a nice sweep up. As soon as I'm happy, I'll final sand this out, get a final sanding, smooth it all out, and then pop the block off. We're not going to really worry, about this edge. We're going to wind up dressing that edge off anyway. I just want to get the glue edges off of this, dress all the edges. Now I did get that nice curvature that I was looking for there. Come out real nice. Okay, the fit looks okay. Now the next step is I want to hollow this out just enough that I can get the motor in there. Let's see, how do I want to do this? I can put that line on there right from the front. That gives me a hollow line. And I can basically, since I'm not going to really worry about making this super hollow right now, just leave a good quarter of an inch or more around here. Now this is what I like to use as a gouge. What's handy now is just notice, follow through. All the grain is going in one direction, so the hollowing job should be relatively easy. And I don't want to make it paper thin. I just want to get most of the meat out of there so I can put a test fit over it with the engine in place. Now, boy, I'll tell you, the difference between carving a nice soft piece of wood and one of these, what I'll call scrap wood, dollhouse wood, you know, this is, oh man, this is like carving a washing machine. This is unbelievable. Right here, there's a knot or something that I can't even get the knife blade. Ah! Just got to chew it up. Anyway, I'll get as much of this done with the blade, and then I'm going to finish it off with the Dremel tool. What a mess. With this, you can't even carve it so hard. Now I'm just trying to get a reasonable finish on the inside here, and we'll be ready to get the motor mounted, get some of the holes cut. Go. Now I'm just getting the motor bolted in here, and of course I want to make sure I have it exactly where I want it. And I want to rough out the hole for the head, and I can usually get this pretty accurate within a few shots. I need to line it up right on center. The glow plug is right here. Venturi is here. Now I know where the centers are. I can mark the centers. And what I do, I'll just poke a hole in here, and then from there I can little by little by little work into the size opening that I want here, the scoop opening. I'm just trying to line it up. Now I've just been picking up the hard spots here little by little and marking them and then grinding it away. Now take it over by the grinder and just grind just enough, and then I want to get the Venturi hole in here too at the same time. Just a little more clearance here, and I'll have this for the cylinder. I'm just trying to get even clearance and a pleasing scoop shape here. What's handy here is a dowel with a piece of sandpaper taped to it, just to work on that opening. Now the next step I want to do, I want to line this. I want to get the lining on this with 64th plywood. Make a little lip on the inside of this with 64th plywood. I want to get a flat perpendicular edge here first. Then I want to take the 64th plywood with the grain going in the direction that I can bend it in. Strip off a piece. Doesn't have to be fancy. Nothing fancy here. I'll work it just down in there. Now I can set the angle that I want. I want that up like so. Of course this is way oversized, but I'll trim it to shape. Let me make sure I haven't created a problem here. Okay, now I can mark this for the length, trim off the extra, leave it a little bit oversized for now. I want to put this in with the seam toward the back, because most of the back is going to get trimmed away. If you follow through what I'm trying to accomplish here. Okay. Just adjust this so that the seam is totally in the back. Just get a drop of CA on this to start with. Let's wait for this to kick off. Now the idea here is to glue so that the plywood is completely straight up and down. I glue one side, just tack it in. Make sure it's perpendicular. Otherwise you create kind of a funny looking deal here. Just trim out some of this extra in here. Now from here we want to lay out the side profile and just rough this in. Now having that plywood in there gives us a nice lining, a nice edge. Plus it also establishes the side view. Shut this off. It establishes the side view. Now there's no other way I know of you could carve that curve up there. This way we can fill that in. And we get that little reverse radius curve that I think looks very nice anyway. This establishes the side view. Now what I want to do is I want to make this a little more clearance in here. It's a little too tight. Because what's going to happen, some of the Super Tiger 60s have those large head fins, and I want to be able to do as many switching of motors as I really have to here, or even double stars, whatever. I want to be able to get every motor possible in it, so I'm going to just grind away a little bit of this extra lip here. Now I got that whole piece back there, extra clearance on both sides. In fact, I still want a little more over here. See, this is the whole thing, you know. Go back and forth, dry fit it, come back until you get exactly the opening, the clearance that you want. It just takes time. It's a back and forth thing. And I probably spend, I never get it right on the first shot anyway. I always spend a lot of time making the openings exactly how I want them. Yeah, it's a lot more like what I had in mind. I just need to get out. A little time here really pays off. Now we just need to redo that piece in the back, piece of plywood, and then recut it in. Okay, much better. Now I can just take this. Famous last words, I can just take this. Tack in one spot. Make sure and work my way right around, making sure I have plenty of clearance. Come on. You would think everything goes right for me. No way, Jose. I just go back and repeat the same steps for setting the outlines. Nice equal clearance. Realistic, being able to get into the venturi. The next step is I want to get some piece of wood side grain inside this scoop. I'll cut this just a little bit oversized. Look at this, you can't even get a pen right here. Now I want to make a 64th plywood nose ring for this. The next step is I'm laying this out on a piece of 64th plywood. This will give me the amount I want to be oversized. And just let this dry up on a flat glass table, so that gives me a perfectly flat edge, razor sharp edge. Now the next thing is going to be here to get a final sanding on this. Very careful final sanding. Okay, the most important thing right now is to get every edge on here flat. I want to just resand out my little angle here, that little radius. Put a final nice smooth finish on a balsa. Then I'm going to seal this whole thing with CA. Get a nice radius on everything. Now I'm just trying to get as smooth a finish on the raw wood here. I spent a little more time than I thought I would. With some angle blocks and dowels, trying to get this as smooth as I can expect before I put that first coat of CA on. A lot of little angles and things that I'd like to have really nice. Now I'm just putting on the slow drying CA. This is really just to seal the wood and give me a finish I can work off. I want to have a sealed finish here. So when I put the body putty on, or whatever I'm going to make the fillet out of, I don't want to have this soaking into raw wood and delaminating on me. Again, the dust in the towel always seems to kick it off at a nice, slow, predictable rate that you don't get that popcorn effect. Even seals up this, actually it seals everything. It seals the 64th plywood up nice too. Now I'm trying to, I don't know if this is going to be successful, I'm trying to mold a little fillet over here out of thick CA like I do on, well, like we have done in the past on filleting, like on Strega for instance. Trick is to really get far back with the kicker and don't use a lot of it. But it doesn't matter, even if this bubbles up, it's not a factor. I just want to have enough material on it that I can put a nice smooth finish on this. I want a nice glass-like finish. Whoa, there we go. Don't drip, you sucker. Now this is the time-consuming part, is sanding this first coat of CA down, getting all the edges radiused to the radius that we like to have. And I want to work on that fillet in there. That's to me, one of the things that I really like to see is a nice fillet in that area. And there's no way that I know of that you can carve that in realistically. This is the only way I've found to be able to get that curve, that reverse curve, whatever it is, that I like anyway. Now we're almost done with this plug. I guess we will be relatively soon anyway. Now usually it'll take 2 or 3 fillings of the thin CA to get this exactly the way I want it. And I'm just going to do this, a lot of it off camera anyway. It's very time consuming. And the nicer I make this plug, the nicer the molded cowl will be. And obviously if it doesn't work, the worst that can happen here is you go and carve another cowling. So even this little experiment here is really it's a very low risk thing. What I wound up doing is putting about 10 coats of CA around this fillet area, sanding each one off, using a little dowel for a tool. The couple of spots I've gone through, it really won't matter, but this will now be our cowling plug. I checked it on both fuselages, it fits fine. It's just slightly oversized, which should work out just perfectly. And that's the end of the fun. That's all the fun I can take for one day, so see you later, alligator. Oh man, get up this morning, guess what? More snow to shovel. Oh God, can't believe it. Anyway, take a look out here, check this out. I can't believe this. Snow. Look at this little piano. More snow. Oh. Anyway, I'm gonna go downstairs, see what I can get done on the Spitfire today. Snow or no snow? Now, after a glorious session of shoveling snow, I want to get down here, warm up a little, turn the heat up in the house. And one of the things I want to do here, I want to unwrap this. This is my 1/8 inch piece. This should be dry now. Take out the 2 shims and just get an idea how this is going to fit into our program. Now we'll have 2, this is the second bottom block we've made. And one thing I can tell you right away is where the new ace bandage was, it's a lot smoother than where the old one was. The old one has ridges because it's a thinner bandage. So the first thing is buy the widest one of these you can find. That looks like maybe I should get a couple more wide ones. Let's see how this, see if we can get this off the mold. I remember we had 2 shims, which I want to save. Ooh, that's really stuck in there. There we go. So now from this mold I've made 3 pieces. I have 2 shims, a piece of 1/8 inch, which by the way looks real nice and rigid. Now the only problem with this is I don't have that line on here because the shims blotted out the line, so I'll have to figure a way of, if I'm going to use this, transposing over that line. Now after a lot of little tinkering here, the thing I've decided is I can't trim this until I take the piece off the other fuselage. But this piece looks a little bit oversized by maybe 32nd of an inch or so in every dimension. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take one shim, and a piece of 3/32. By the way, this would be nice if you could use these shims. Boy, this is light. Use paper for a bottom block. Anyway, I'm going to take the mold, and I'll do this off camera. This is going to just be redundant now over and over again. Take my first shim, which is this one here. Now maybe what I can do is trim the shim. I can trim this shim. That's a great idea. I think I'll do that. I'll trim this shim on the line, and that'll give me some reference of a line then. And I still have 1 extra shim. So let me put that on. Again, the idea here is I'll have a shim that's trimmed up to the wire. Maybe what I'll try to do is run a little bit of ink on that wire so I can pick up the line. The first shim picked up the line, no problem at all. In fact, maybe I can sand this just a little bit undersized so I can still pick up the wire. Again, this is all a little fiddling and fooling you have to get before you're going to have that perfect, what I hope is going to be a perfect bottom block. And then once I figure out the exact way I want to do this, I'll mold up 2 of them that'll be the final blocks. Now this is the one shim that I have trimmed. And I have it that it goes right to the wire. Actually, if I wanted to, I could tack glue this in place, but no reason to right now. And I still should be able to pick up the wire there. Alright, so what I'm going to do is soak up now a piece of 3/32 ammonia wood. And make up another one with 1 shim and 3/32. Then I'll have a big block, a medium, and a small. And I can see which one actually is going to be the final fit here. Which one will be the one I want to mold up with the good wood, the real light wood. Now what I'm going to try is just taping this shim in place with one thickness of tape. And I want to put a little piece out here so that I can go right to the end with my piece. And what I decided to do is I have a piece of 16th wire here, butted up against the other piece of wire. I'm just going to tack glue it in place, because otherwise I can't pick up with the shim on there. I won't be able to pick up the reference line to get my edge so I can slit the back of the block. Again, I don't want to put this on too permanently, just tack it on in case I need to take this off. And what I have here is the shim is on. You can see the shim, the thin piece of wire, which is 032, and this is a piece of 16th wire. So I'll have a lot of choices here, and this wire sticks up just enough that I hope it'll pick it up in my next mold test. Now as I'm putting the ammonia, I'm soaking this piece with ammonia here, I noticed one thing, and again these are test pieces, so one side of this wood, because of the way the grain is very rigid. One side is really flexible. So obviously what I want to do is put the real flexible side toward the back where the tail wheel is. I'd like to take advantage of the grain structure here to build a little extra strength in. Boy, this stuff really stinks. Between snow shoveling and ammonia, you really go crazy here. Anyway, I'll wrap this off camera. This is going to be redundant of redundant, but we're on our third molded block. And we're starting to get some data to work with, something that we can put in the bank, and something that we can hopefully pass on to other people. But first we have to figure it out, and figuring out is the real challenge of this hobby, the real fun of the hobby. I don't care what anybody says, that's the challenge to me, is trying to figure all this stuff out. Now I'm getting so efficient at wrapping these, I only needed the 1/8 bandage, because I'm getting it on neater, like a barber pole. And I'll put this away by the heat, let this dry, and tomorrow I'll come out, and then I'll have a nice selection of test blocks, and hope I can do some finalizing of the fits and see exactly what I want to do here as far as making up the final blocks. Now what I'm doing is I'm labeling each piece as to what the thickness of the wood is and how many shims I use to make this. Because don't forget another thing, we're going to be obviously making up some other fuselages here. Let's say like John DeTavio's fuselage or somebody else. They may need the oversized piece of wood, and in which case I'll have a load of them in inventory. I also have that anybody out there that would like one of these, and I suspect there may be somebody that watches the video and doesn't want to go through all the headache of making a mold. This would probably fit a universal amount of stun chips. You could pinch it together or spread it just a little bit. And I could send them one that's a little bit oversized, and you could trim it to fit yourself. It beats the hell out of playing for a $40 bottom block, top blocks, whatever. Now before I go on to the next step, one of the things that I definitely want to fit, and keep in mind, isn't this exactly what you'd love to have? Wouldn't you love to go buy a kit, and in the kit was a molded a molded cowling that required no carving, no slicing, no sanding, just drill your hole out for the motor, and it fit on every body. And no matter how many bodies you made, look at this. I mean, would this be great if the blocks were all molded up in a kit? The cowling was molded up. Now nobody's saying we're going to be able to do this, but we're certainly well on our way to having this technology. I've always wanted to have a plane where I'll tell you a funny story now. Lou Dudkin, this is true. He made a plane one time, took the cowling off the old plane, and what he did, he cheated a little bit. He sanded the paint off. He used that cowling, and then he sanded the fuselage in to meet the cowling, rather than make the fuselage and then make the cowl. So I'm kind of stealing some of that idea. Is when I have this, notice how everything is just a little bit oversized, so that when this is molded, I can sand that right in. I can trim the bottom block in, and boy, the next guy that makes a Spitfire will have molded blocks, molded cowls. Now, there's nothing to say, another thought, and believe me, my little think tank is just overflowing here. There's nothing to say that we couldn't do this, make up a complete Spitfire body, complete body. And one of the things we'd be able to do then is put, let's say for instance, a Cardinal 51 wing and tail in, a PM wing and tail. We could change the canopy just a little bit, but basically this is the cowling shape that we use on every plane. And remember, almost every plane. And remember, the key here is make the cowl as small as possible. Small cowls. Keep the nose rigid. You don't want to have this whole thing drop away and be able to throw the tank in like a suitcase into a boxcar. Small cowling. Small cowling is the whole deal here. And interchangeability. How nice if you built this plane or whatever, and this is where the direction I'm working in, and then next year you build another fuselage, you lay the sides, the crutch, you can do that pretty much in one day. You put the molded bottom block on, you put the cowl on, trim it, sand it into the nose ring, done. Boy, would that be nice. Would that be a time saver? Hey, that's the direction we're working in, that's for sure. Now, I went and bought this at a Pearl Paint art supply store. There's a lot of ways of making a female mold. This is one that the guy at the store kind of talked me into, and after reading the directions and gobbledygook, yeah, I want to have this in my arsenal, and I will try this at some future time, but I want to use an older method. One of the things that I've seen done many times before, and I think that's what I'm going to try to do, is make up a little box and fill it with plaster of Paris, any kind of plaster that's self-hardening, and then I'll be able to use the mold later, maybe later today or even tomorrow. Now, the first step of this, of course, is to make up a little box. And this is just scrap 16th plywood. I'm laying out maybe 1 inch in each direction over. I want to make up a little box. I need to measure the height. Now, I need to be able to bury this, so I'll leave maybe an extra 1/2 inch of plaster. Just make this up, and I'll conform this with scrap balsa. Just make up a box. Now, I need to add the thickness of the thickest part, so I'll make this about 1.5 inches. There'll be another piece on top of this. So in effect, what I've made here is just nothing more than a little box out of some scrap balsa. Now, I don't have any plaster of Paris here. I looked over in the box. I'm going to have to run over to the hardware store. It's still snowing like crazy, but luckily we live near a hardware store. Now, that's the nice little box. I need to make sure that this part, when it's suspended in there, will fit in there. What I'm trying to do is even out the whole frame. Well, I've almost got it now. This corner is not right. Because what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go to the store, get some plaster of Paris, glue this to a piece of cross pieces, and then drop this down into the plaster of Paris. So when it dries, hopefully it'll come out. I have a release agent, and then I'll have the mold that I can make my cowlings from. Now, the other thing is, you can make the cowling out of any combination of fiberglass, epoxy, polyester resin. There's a million materials, boat materials, aircraft materials. I'm going to try a couple of different materials, but I'll save the cowlings. Again, this is the test, and we need to do this a few times to decide exactly how we want to do this. Now, the only thing left is I'm going to have to run out now. Boy, this is the part I hate, running out to get stuff. Another thing, too, is in the past I've made spinners out of carbon fiber and polyester resin and stuff. And you could obviously make the mold from carbon fiber, from fiberglass cloth. That's the way boats are made. They make the mold out of the same material they make the part out of. But I want to try this plaster of Paris thing. I want to give this one shot. If this doesn't work, obviously we can clean the mold off and just go on to part. Then the other way. You're not committed here too much in any way. I'm hoping also that I'll have a permanent mold so that if anybody out there wants a fiberglass cowling, hey Groucho, you know, that whole thing. And this, you could possibly even use this on, you know, a plane that you haven't built yet. You could build a Cardinal, put this on, cut the fuse side to the angle and whatever. And boy, think of all the work if you just didn't have to carve cowlings every year. Mamma mia. All right, I'm going to be back from the I hope. I hope I make it. See you later. All right. Now I wound up a little research here. He and I was at the store. I think I'd do a little research. Talked to somebody that was in the store that was doing some body shop work, and they did things similar to this, boat repairs and stuff. And he suggested I get this little repair kit. So I'm going to give this a try. This has the cloth and resin and all the nonsense that I'm going to need. I'll read the directions and I'll give that a look. I also picked up the old plaster of Paris, the old standby from the model train days. And first thing I'm going to do is get the mold sitting and letting it start to harden. It says let it harden for an hour. Let that harden. This stuff, by the way, is dirt cheap. It's $2 for a 5-pound bucket. Anyway, and the other stuff I think was 11 bucks. So for under $15, we should have enough to make a lifetime supply of cowlings. The first thing I want to do is make a little bit of an oversized lid for this box that I can glue the plug to. You know, I hope you're watching this development, what I'm going through here. Maybe you'll come up with some better ideas or some improved ideas and pass them on to me, and in turn I can pass them on to all the people doing the video. Now I just want to mark exactly. I sanded this as smooth as I could with some 320 paper. It's just a piece of plywood. This is my reference. Let's just get this. Whoop. Yeah. I want that seal. See, this is what happens if you don't go real quick with the paper towel. You wind up paper towel on the thing. Now I want to sand. This is kind of rough. I want to sand this smooth and maybe hit it with another coat. I want this sealed. I don't want to have the plaster of Paris get a good grip on that. Okay, this is Chemco Resin Crafts PVA mold release for polyester and epoxy resins. Blah 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 blah. I read the directions. Da, 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 da. Paint on. They just want you to put a coat of this on. Now you can use, and there's a lot of other different things you can use. That's for sure. There's a million different kind of mold releases, from Simonized wax to. See if I got a brush down here. Any number of different kind of mold release agents. So what I'm going to do, I have this all sanded down now. I want to give this a real good coat of mold release agent. Now I remember from molding up those spinners, and I had molded up some carbon fiber spinners for the Executioner. In fact, I still have them here. I remember the mold release stuff being a pain in the ass to work with. And the reason I want this, this takes a half hour or so to dry. And while this is drying, I could be mixing up the plaster of Paris. Get that all set up. And of course the biggest pain in the ass of any molding of especially fiberglass is when you get the whole thing done and you can't get the part out. And you have to drill holes in it and beat it with a hammer and whatever. So we'll find out. We'll see how this stuff works. Again, I'll give this a real good coat, put it aside to dry. I got this at an art supply store, so who knows? We'll find out. But I know one thing will work also is Simonized wax. The stuff SIG sells some mold release agent. Any number of mold release agents will be fine. Okay, that mold release agent is drying within the next, well, I'll give it a half an hour. Just letting that dry up. I'm going to rip that fiberglass little kit of instructions apart. Read the instructions, of course. Boy, never hurts to read the instructions. Now this is the way this little kit comes. It comes with some fiberglass cloth, of course, some hardener, some resin, and instructions, and this little pan to mix it. So let me just take this over to the bench, spend a little time and read. I want you to understand, as a last resort, you can always read the instructions. Even I read the instructions sometimes. I just want to have on a video that you see I'm reading the instructions. Even though they're in French, I'm reading them. If you knew how many projects in my life I've screwed up because I didn't read the directions. One of the best ones, when we were building this bench, this vacuum bench, we couldn't figure out how to get the motor wired. And even George, who's a licensed electrician, couldn't figure it out. And the last thing, we pulled out the directions. So I've learned my lesson. Anyway, I'm going to read this up. This is really for repairing cars, but it'll be the same kind of polyester resin, same thing we're using. If you wanted to buy this in bigger quantities, I'll make a suggestion to you. You can go to where they sell, any place that sells boats or repairs boats, and they have what's known as a special resin that's called gel coat. And you can paint the mold with gel coat, and this would mean that when you took the part out of the mold, it would have the finish already on it. It would be white or green or blue or whatever. Well, we're not interested in that. We're going to prime it with auto primer anyway. But that is one of the choices you have. So, and it's been a lot of fun so far getting involved in this. I can certainly see a lot of other applications for this. One of the applications I can see is I better learn how to read. Now, what idiot? Why do they print this in French? I can't believe it. Give me a break. Now look at this nonsense. I mean, come on, if you come to this country and you want to make molds, speak English. This is ridiculous. Send these people back to Poland. Ah, I recognize the word animals. Primo auxiliaros. Boy, this French is a killer. Now while I'm waiting for that mold release to harden, I can rough out the top block here. I start looking through my collection of 40-pound blocks. Actually, this is a little over 18 and a half. 18 and a half will be fine. And it's a little over 3/4 of an inch. Now I got the perfect block for this. It's 11-pound density wood. This would be an excellent thing to cut it up on. Boy, is this hard. You know, you always want to do a little test like this to, ooh, God, is that hardwood. Now, thank God, the only redeeming feature out of this is that one side is a little harder than the other. This is the softer side, so I'll rough this out of the soft side. Now I want to leave the line on if possible when I cut this, especially being it's such nice soft wood. It's only about 40-pound wood. Now the idea being here is I can cut a little bit of this back. I know I'm going to trim this back just a little bit, save myself a little extra carving. side that's going to get tacked to the fuselage relatively smooth and leave the dust on. I just want to check all my reference lines here before I tack this on, make sure I have it. Alright, I just need a few tacks here and be ready to start on getting this block roughed out. Now this is the, let's see if you can read the label here. The material I'm using, an ordinary plaster of Paris. This is nothing special. Just found a great use for that piece of the top block we just cut off. And what I'm going to do is mix enough of this up in a coffee can. You really have a limited working span. I've used this so much on model trains that kind of a friendly material to work with. Cold water. Everything around here is cold thanks to the snow. You want to mix it up into a kind of a buttered consistency, a little bit thicker than butter. And then we'll pour it into that mold. The release agent is already dry. It looks like that release agent dries real nice in under a half an hour. Remember that old time management thing, while one thing's drying, I'm working on something else. It's the only way it seems like you ever get anything done. Really, that's the whole bottom line. Now, it's a little bit on the thin side. I just want to add a little powder, thicken it up a little bit as I go. Now remember, you only have really about 5 minutes and this stuff starts hardening up, so. Now you notice I'm doing this in a slop sink. There's a reason. I don't want this stuff all over my workbench. Even a little, that's even a little bit, well, I think that'll be okay, but I'll just add a little bit. Just a little more. Remember from all the years of making HO train sets and Lionel train sets and using this stuff to make mountains with, now it's a little, now that's too thick. Now we got to go add a shot glass of soda water. I'm doing this in the slop sink because I want anything that runs out, I want to be able to wipe up with towels. You never flush this stuff down the drain. Oh, no matter what you do. Never flush this down or you'll be sorry. Okay, that looks fine. I'm going to take my box. I'll just get cranking on this. We may even, after we're done with this, try to make one fiberglass mold to go in conjunction with this too, just to see which one we like the best. Pack it in the corners. One thing would be handy here would be a spatula. This stuff gets hot when it starts cooking off too. I watched that that Martha Stewart episode with Piggy, the Christmas special. Unbelievable. Really good. Okay, now I'm almost at the top. Now I want to take I can take this, get rid of this for the time being, lay this up here. Make sure we have full contact, and some should be oozing out. Oh yes. Notice I'm trying to get everything back in a can. I don't want anything to go on the sink here if I can help it. Okay, now I can take this to the workbench and just put a weight on it and then scrape the rest off. Now again, like I said, don't ever pour this down the sink or you'll have a trip to Roto-Rooter. What I do, I clean with Windex, clean what's left on your hands, clean it with paper towels and put them in the garbage, never down the drain. Now, I can take this, take a nice piece of scrap wood and clean this mold off. Now within a half hour or so we'll be able to pull this mold apart, hopefully not break it pulling it apart. Just trying to make this as neat of a job as I can here. Plenty of weight on top to squeeze it out. Now while that's all drying, I put up my blanket here and I'm going to get as much rough work as I can done on this. I can get the corners and get the basic shaping done while I'm waiting. Just some little things I can work on right now. Time management stuff. While something's drying, work on something else. Before I do anything, any carving at all, especially when you're going to carve up one of these lousy blocks, a nice new, brand new blade. All these edges, wow, this is some hard block. Oh God, it's like carving a 2x4. It's hard to believe. Look at this, you can't even get the knife to go through. Oh, Midgley, send me a good top block. My God, what awful blocks these are. Holy mackerel. Yeah, I'm ready for lunch anytime you are. I'll be right up. Gotta go have lunch. The cute wife is home. This is just such a hard piece of wood. I want to get every little extra bit I can off this way. We really aren't wasting a good, this would be a good base for a mold, or a dollhouse or something. Anyway, this will just make it easy when I get back after lunch. Now I've had lunch. I come back down to my project here, and I'm just thinking, it's almost Christmas. I can't believe it. I've never had a year. What is that? I've never had a year go this fast in my whole life. Why? Because I'm having so much fun. Unbelievable. Oh, just look at that snow outside. I just can't believe all this snow. Did a little bit of painting here right after lunch, and I'm just looking around the shop and thinking, time is just flying by. I just can't believe it. I guess it's because I'm over 50, getting overweight, too old, or what, I don't know. Now, I don't know if you can see this, boy. This plaster, and I'm just going by what's on the outside, is rock hard. Look at that, a perfect mold. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to paint the inside of this, give this a coat of mold release agent. Just, you don't even have to dry. This is warm and wet, by the way. Let this dry up a little bit. Maybe I'll put this up by the heating vent, but just get a little look at this, how this worked out. Not so bad. That mold release agent really worked well. There's a couple of air holes in there, but that's not the end of the world. What I'm going to do, I'll put this up by the heating vent for now. But, hey, I'm real happy with that. Joe K would be proud of me. Check that out. The first mold ever cast by Wendy Ertnowski. Check that out. All right. And like I said before, I'm trying to do one job as one is drying. I'm really trying to make some speed here. Everything is chaotic. The weather, my health, my personal life. Unbelievable. But one thing makes it all worthwhile. Having a good wife. And boy, is she a good one. No doubt about that. I guess I always get depressed when I think of how old I am. I When I was young, I never thought I'd get old, you know. Now that I'm old, I know I'm going to get old, and I know I'm going to get older, so. Anyway, back to carving. Now I'm just trying to dress the edge off on this. See what I can do. I can be carving while I'm in between doing all these other crazy little jobs. Just block sanding this off because I want to get a nice edge right along the edge here. Now there's a couple little flaws in here, and what I'm going to do is fill. They don't occur in a part of the mold that I'm going to use. This here is going to all get cut out, so I'm going to fill them with that green putty. Now this is all going to get ground away, so I don't even care if this is smooth. Just using the edge of one of these blades. In fact, I ought to use my fingertip. I don't know what I'm doing here. Getting too cute. This is just to fill in the holes, the mold release holes. I don't want these to be trapped. About getting to be an old fuddy-duddy here. Too old. I think you can pretty much figure out what I'm doing. I'm just scraping all the excess off. Then I'm going to put the mold release agent in here. Let that dry a half an hour. While it's drying, I can work on that top block a little more. The whole idea is always keep 2 or 3 projects going at once. I'm going to use the same mold release agent and paint this whole thing. And then put this up by the heating vent to kind of dry out. I'm kind of excited about this. This is the first one of these that I've really had come out this nice. When I was making the spinners, just to make a long story short, making the spinners, trying to make them is a better word. I tried to make this tremendous needle nose spinner from, I don't even remember. I think I made it on a lathe by Joe Kay's, the prototype. I made a mold pretty similar to this, but out of fiberglass. And what happened is, when I made these spinners, it was so much work, it was so labor intensive, there's no way you could sell them. They'd be $100 a piece by the time you made them, but they were really unique. Now, one of the things it allows me to do, though, is if we decide we really have to have some unique spinner in the future, for whatever, cardinal or whatever the reason is, whatever unique thing we need, we will be able to make it, I hope. Hope is a big word here. Anyway, I'm going to let this dry up. It looks like this is getting absorbed right into the plaster, so maybe I'll put 2 or 3 coats on. Now, after getting it roughed out, I'll just do the final cuts with the plane. You can see how nice and quick this goes. And I need to blend this in, and up at the nose ring I need to probably get a sanding block and get that trued in. I'm trying to get that nice taper into the spinner here. I want to get it almost right into the tape, but not touching the tape. Maybe leave the thickness of 1 piece of tape there. This is a little more taper on this side. This is what's nice about carving on an old towel. You just take this outside and dump it. In fact, dump it right in the neighbor's yard. I'm going right up to the tape, but not over it. Okay, the next thing here is pop the block off, and then I have to undercut it. And I've tried to be real careful about getting a nice fit around the nose ring and not over sanding it, because we're going to glass the nose anyway. I want to get it as most reasonable a fit as I possibly can up in the front. It came off pretty clean, I guess because it's a hard piece of wood. I'll dress both of these surfaces off and then undercut this block. And get all those little glue dots off. Now I'll do the same thing I did on the bottom block. I'll mark this for about... I apparently went too far on the bottom block. I went about 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to go 1/16 on this one and take only one slice off and see if that gets me in a ballpark without having to use a shim. I also like to check back here is where our cockpit detail is going to be, so I'd like to make sure that's symmetrical. Now I can mark this spinner, so we anticipate using 1/8 inch wood, about 1/8 of an inch. And I'll know how much to undercut this. Only this time I'm really going to be careful not to overdo this. I'm sure I overdid it on the last one, especially up around the nose. If I have to, I can laminate in just a little piece of wood. I can skip it in there. And I'm going to have to make a bulkhead for where this ends anyway. And I'll be careful not to go onto the line. Stay away from the line. The same thing back here. I'm just doing a little test fit here to see just about where I am. I really want to take one more cut with the plane off. All right, the rest I can sand. I'll just do a couple of dry fits. Again, I don't want to go too far. It's great having this sanding bench, boy. I never get sick of using this sanding bench. Okay, it looks like I have the undercut just about right, and what I did is up here I just left a little extra meat on the front just so I could laminate a piece inside and then blend this to a perfect blend right here. And just a little bit of extra meat right there. Now you know that's going to come off as soon as we actually install a block, and I'll get that sanded right down to the final little bit. Now I have to take this, of course. Now the next step is to mount this on a brace. Once I get this on a brace, hey, actually I'll be ready to mold apart either later today or tomorrow. Well, we're getting near the end of this session anyway, and if I don't get upstairs and take care of some family time, you know, I'll be hurting. But what I'm going to try to do is come down later after everybody goes to bed, because I want to get this guy in a mold, and this mold could be drying overnight then. Now I just cut up another piece of this really rock hard, beautifully rock hard wood. And what I'll do, I'll take this over by the saw and we'll lop this off, and I'll actually be ready to mold up a nose part here pretty soon. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to use the heavier wire right from the get-go. I'll measure up 2 pieces. This is 16th wire, and I'll CA them right in place. Now I have that tacked in place, of course, and this will seal it up. Now one little nice side benefit I just noticed is we can get 2 nose sections out of 1 piece of wood here. The only thing I'm not sure of is, I won't know till I try it, if a 3-inch piece is going to make it. See, a 3-inch piece might not be long enough. Now a 3-inch piece is just not going to make it, just by not enough. So we can't use this. I have to go find some 4-inch wood, or I want to put 4-inch wood. I don't want to have a joint in the wood. Okay, since this is a test piece, I don't have any 3/32 by 4, I have 8. So I'll just leave this a little bit oversized. Ammonize this up and wrap this with the spare ace bandage. We can put this away to dry tonight. Well, this is about, I thought I was going to get the fiberglass COWL molded up tonight. Everything just took a little longer than I thought it would, and I'm tired, so this is basically going to be the end of the session. But what I did get accomplished today, and I think it was significant, was I did manage to get the mold finished for the plaster, and I can work on that in the next session. And I managed to get this guy done, so I guess this really wasn't that bad of a day. Now, with this, I'm going to start at the back and then work my way to the front. That's where most of the taper is, and hope that this doesn't split. I can see right away I'm going to have to get some more ace bandages too. And we'll see how this test piece dries up in the morning. And we'll be ready to work on that fiberglass cowl. Really, a lot of stuff going on here at one time, I'll tell you. Even I'm impressed. Midgley would be impressed if he was down here. Anyway, while we're sleeping and snoring and everything, all this stuff should be drying up. Okay, we got 2 mummies sitting here. 2 mummies. We'll see what this looks like in the morning. We'll have extra test pieces, and we'll have our first production piece off of the nose. Now, I took the first piece we made out of the nose mold. There's only one little problem with it. I'm going to try to resolve this. You can see up in the front. Let me get up in the front here. What I did, I wrapped it from the back to the front. Well, you see the little whoop. So what I'm going to try to do, I'm going to trim it off. I put the red line on there. Re-soak the nose, I'll re-soak the whole thing, and then start wrapping it from the front to the back. I think that'll... What happened here is the wire held it and then it bunched up. So maybe there's a case to be made when you have a lot of draft like that, you can make the wire smaller, I don't know, or wrap from the small side. Again, this is the ongoing thing of trying to get all the kinks worked out of this. And the idea is so that you don't have to go through this aggravation. You can kind of take a ride with me and learn as we learn. Now you can see the deal is, there isn't a good, this is an oversized match. So one of two things I can do. I can trim the mold down, that'll be one way of doing it. I can take some more off the mold, or the second choice is I'll re-soak this. I'm going to try re-soaking this first and re-wrapping it and see if that makes a whole lot of difference. It's oversized by maybe 1/8 of an inch, and I really didn't want it undersized. More than anything else, I didn't want it undersized. Now what I think I'm going to do after soaking this down real good, I want to try to get the contour. In fact, I'm going to let it hang over the end just a little bit. Maybe that'll bring me down. Actually, it's just the end I have to redo, so let's see if I can make any progress in this area. And I know, whoops, but you really have to get some tension on this. Again, each time I'm doing this, I'm learning a little bit more, so kind of an ongoing thing. And I'm working just on getting this nose fully wrapped down. Then I'll just let the rest of it slide down normally. I'm even putting a double wrap up around the nose here to see. I don't know how much we're going to be able to squash this. And actually what I can do, if I had the tape here, what is this tape? Again, the worst that can happen is I can put a little extra laminated piece underneath to make the fit, but I'd like to be able to do it all with the mold if possible. So let me squeeze the hell out of this and then put this aside to dry. While this is dry, notice what I'm trying to do is within each session is get one block out to dry, or one set of blocks. Now I want to take the other block, where's my other mold? And pull that out of the mold for now. Oh, here it is right here. Pull this one out of the mold and see how this one came out. Now this is the piece I did with, and I want to mark what each one is here. This is 3/32 with 1 shim. So I want to mark what each one is because I'm going to lay out obviously another piece of wood here. And I'll get rid of this shim. I had the shim taped in position here. Again, the only object of doing this, racing down here this morning like this, is what I want to try to accomplish is get another set of molds going so I have a bigger selection when it comes time to actually finalize this. Now the 3/32 piece with 1 shim on the mold is almost a perfect match. This I haven't trimmed it yet, but this looks like it's going to be absolutely a perfect match. It isn't off by I ought to mark the mold here. I just marked that shim. I'm gonna gear up and make one more piece of this while I'm waiting. Have a little time this morning. This way I have one extra one in inventory. Okay, so now we'll have an extra set of pieces. Obviously, some of the advantages of making extra pieces is in the middle of building, if one either gets sanded too thin, or you don't like the way the grain is running in it, or you want to weight them all and take the lightest one. In this case, I definitely want to give the lightest one to Joe, so Joe can get a little head start on having his model come out light. Now I noticed the 3-inch piece of wood just doesn't make it here, so I'm trying to get it to be even with the wires too at the same time. And it definitely pays to buy the wide Ace bandage. I can see that already. Don't buy the thin one. So little by little, we're trying to get as many little tips and techniques down so that we can have the best possible quality parts here. Now I want to lay up this mold as the next thing. Nice and smooth now with that the release agent all dried overnight. So the first thing I'm going to do is using the directions. I got a little measuring thing. I'll measure up maybe 2 ounces of the resin, get it hardened, and get ready to... This will just be a test piece. Hey, they give you quite a bit of cloth. I'll lay this up with the thick cloth first, and then see if I can lay it up with thinner and thinner cloth, and see how light I can make this part and where it needs to be reinforced and whatever. Now the first one I'll do, I'm not going to be too fancy. This is more going to be a test than anything else to see just how difficult this is. I'll put 3 of these in there. I'm probably going to wind up getting away with 1, 1.5. But again, we'll find out. This is all... Now I could use newspaper. I used a cardboard box thing from the post office, so I don't have... a mess on my work table here. This stuff really is toxic, smelly stuff too. It stinks. To put it mildly. Let's get the cap on here. It's 14 drops an ounce now. The whole deal is obviously get this mixed up real good. Get it spread on a mold as tightly as possible. I remember making those spinners. What a pain in the... Oh man, this stuff was stinking me out of the house. Now it looks like from just what I'm seeing here, we mixed way too much resin. I definitely can go down on the resin. But for the first one, I wanted to be a little bit cool about it anyway. And now the trick is, of course, to get it packed into all the corners. Leave the excess hanging up. Again, of course, this is a test. I'm not getting too fussy or fancy about it. I just would like to see how this is what this is gonna look like at the end of the drying session here, curing session. And I'll put this aside to dry, of course. Now, what'll happen is as it starts to kick, now we really got quite a bit of extra of resin here, so what I can do is scoop it off into a jar. Apparently you only need a lot less than I thought. And what I want to try to do later on is see if I can run this mold with the thinner cloth, like 1.5 ounce cloth. Well, no, just going to take some time, and I don't care if I have to make 10 of these before I get one that's to my liking. I can just see if I can get it to go down in the corner a little bit better this way. A little nip in the corner. May lay down better there. Again, after I do a few of these, I'll have believe me, I'll have a lot better technique. It's kind of a learn as you go situation here. Now I could speed this up if I wanted to by just hitting it with a hairdryer, but I don't want to do that. I want to give myself all the working time I can, hopefully. And just keep squashing it down into the corners. If you ever seen how they make boats, they spray this stuff on. And it's not really, the final coats are not really cloth, they're just strands. They spray it right out of a hose like a garden hose. It's amazing to watch. Now you can see it just gets stickier and stickier in about a 10-minute time frame here. And I'm just patting it and packing it in. Same way you would draw out fiberglass cloth. Now at this point in time, if this was going to be one of the real molds that we used, I'd lay in a little bit of carbon fiber up in the nose part here to make it a little stronger. Again, I think for a test now, the old trick is always with these parts is a pain in the ass getting them out. That's always where the the men get separated from the boys when it comes time to take this out of the mold. That can be a pain in the ass. I'm putting a couple little reinforcing pieces in here anyway, just to see how much extra resin it absorbs. Put a little nose piece and I put a piece back by the head just to see how much extra resin. I'm trying to absorb this extra resin and keep patting it down in the corners. Now the material's just starting to go into a jello state here. Now before this stuff actually kicks off, I want to clean the scissors with, and my hands with a towel soaked in acetone. And I also want to clean the edges of the mold, just so I don't have to sand this all down when it's dry. And as this starts to kick off, I'm just going to keep patting it back down. And it's starting to really kick off now. Alright, that's just starting to set up now, so I'm going to put this aside. My wife wants to do some craft stuff today. This is our day off, of course. So I'll put this up by the heating vent, get an idea of what this looks like. The next time we get the chance to work on it, we'll see if we can get that out of the mold. That's always, believe me, until you've done this, more fun than you think it is. Now, while all that fiberglass is drying up and a whole cellar stinks, we're working on Karen's craft project here. These are going to be the albums. These are porcelainized flowers that she's going to give to some of our friends for Christmas. How's it coming here?
Oh, nice.
Craft King.
No, I'm a queen. Not
Craft Queen. Oh God, look at this. I could have bought a Super Tiger 60 for the cost of all this stuff. Let's see how the flowers are coming. Yeah, they're looking good. Looking good. Very good. Very good. I'm going to put you in for a raise right now.
You double my
Double
salary.
your salary. Now, believe it or not, this mold release agent worked real well, and the piece came right out. Now the only thing I'm not crazy about here, I have a lot of air bubbles in this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make another test here before the rest of the mafia gets here. I want to make another test just to try to avoid the air bubbles around the corners, and I don't know if I did that by not pressing the cloth in far enough. But anyway, I'll repeat the thing, mix it up. I put the mold release agent here and it's drying now. George and John are on their way over here to take all the pins out of this guy and get some work done on the wing. We got the ailerons to work on today and try to get John DeTavio's fuselage snapped together and maybe even get a molded top block for that fuselage. Make up a mold for that today, and we'll have one for a tuned pipe plane. So anyway, let me get basically not even going to videotape it, just repeat what I was doing. I'm going to mix the resin out of the mold. Maybe what I did is I didn't get in the corners mixing the resin well enough. I'll mix it in a little jar this time and then lay the same amount of cloth. Looks like this is plenty strong. It's good and strong and super light. There's no weight to it at all, hardly. So anyway, that'll be the next step. Get that done, and when the mafia gets here, we'll start working on that big wing. Down the bottom of the rack also, last night I wrapped up some more top blocks. So we have 4 or 5 top blocks, bottom blocks, nose blocks, a lot of stuff sitting over there drying up. This way when we do get our day in, you know, to work on Big Tsunami or to work on John's plane, a lot of this stuff is already drying up in the process. Now this one I'm putting a little bit of extra cloth and resin in, make it just a little bit thicker. Decided to try that. What was nice is that first one came out real nice, so came right out of the mold, so it gave me a little confidence. Well, one thing though, this stuff stinks. Woo! I got the door open, but even with that, it's not enough. And I'm just curious how thick I'm going to be able to make this. Again, remember, this is just testing. These are test plugs. We're not going to use these. The only thing I wasn't happy with the first one was there were some air bubbles in it. I don't know exactly why that was, but I'm going to try to figure it out. And that's where the bolt would normally be. I'll try to build that area up just a little bit there. I'm even trying to use up the little scraps here just to beef this up a little bit. Because this will be the part where I'm going to have to put the hole down. I'm just trying to see if heat has much of an effect on this as far as getting it into the corners. It looks like it doesn't hurt, that's for sure. It's the corners where I had the air bubbles before, so I'm trying to get away from that. Now the worst that can happen here is I'm going to have to go buy a gallon of gel coat over at Burton Plastics if I can't get this the way I want it. I'd like to be able to do it with inexpensive material though, but keep in mind gel coat is available at boat supply places, and that'll make this a whole lot easier. We still haven't run a test with epoxy yet. I'd like to try that before we make a commitment and make the real cowlings. None of this looks like it's at the skill level of an average modeler, the average guy that's building and carving and stuff. And boy, I'll tell you, I set this up this morning in about 15 minutes. I have this laid up as opposed to going and finding a block, carving it, hollowing it, all that nonsense. Seems like there's some future in this. I also have some carbon fiber mat to practice with if I want to try that. So more to come. But of course today is a dedicated day to working on George's big tsunami and John's fuselage, so I just came down to shop real early here, even before breakfast, before everybody's up, try to get some of this done. So this can be drying while we're working on the other stuff around the shop. Okay, now we can put this part aside to dry while we're working on some of the other little projects around here. We got 2 done. Now remember that test piece from yesterday? What I did, I started at the curved front and worked my way to the back, and it seemed to work well. Now what I did, I married this up to what's going to be our fuselage, and boy, it doesn't get a lot closer than that. Let me get that on the macro lens here. That is just about perfect. Now that should be a piece of cake, sanding that in. Now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to make up an extra piece here. So I have one extra one to, while I'm waiting for the Mafia to get here. I want to wrap that, I'll make up another sheet, soak it in ammonia, and I'll have an extra test piece. Hey, we're really building up a supply of test pieces down here, I have to tell you. And it's always to your advantage to have extra pieces, that's for sure. Now remember, the first lesson I learned here is always start at the small part and work your way to the back and keep it even. I thought of another thing too, is to let the wood hang over the end of the mold just a little bit. The reason for that is, in case you need a little more taper, you'll always have a little extra piece up there. In other words, the taper will always get to a smaller and smaller diameter, and then you can just pretty much trim it off right about at the point where you want the nose ring. It'll be a nice tight fit on a nose ring, even though this looks like a pretty reasonable fit. Hey, I've gotten pretty good at doing this, I have to tell you. I could work in if I go to Cairo and there's a job interview for a mummy wrapper. Anyway, this is turning out to be an interesting part of our modeling, and I hope you're enjoying sharing it. We're at the same time we're molding up those little fiberglass cowls. We've got 2 of them one in the oven and 1 out, and we've got about 10 between top, bottom blocks and nose blocks. And so let's hope that by the end of this season I'll be able to homogenize all this information and make it possible that everybody will have this without having to go through all this testing. That's the whole idea of this. But the whole trick here is, if you have a small nose section, start at the nose and work your way down. Now another trick I've learned, and this is not really a trick, it's just I'm using these bandages over and over and over again. They lose their stickiness, so when you get to the end and I want this extra wrapped up on the nose, what I'm trying to do is just get some masking tape up around there, and that keeps the bandage from unwinding as you're you're out doing your thing. Actually, you can use the tape to your advantage up on the nose. In fact, I'll wrap this even a little tighter. Now, what I'm trying to do is get a nice taper up in the nose. Now, I was also thinking of another thing I might want to try. Is instead of taking this, take 2 pieces of 1/16, a 32nd, a 32nd and a 1/16 or whatever, and lay some glass cloth in between the pieces with some white glue. Ammonize it and stretch it down. It'd be like a Well, I don't know until we try it. That definitely we're going to try it before this project is over with. Now look at this quality working conditions we have. George, I want you to know something.
That's right.
Look at this. Look at this.
Look at this. That's right.
Boy, you can tell who's getting paid by the hour, huh, George? Oh man, big tsunami wing being sanded by the master here. Sanding king. Oh God. Hey, that's looking good.
Runs me outside in the snow and freezes me.
Oh man, it's only 10 below zero here. Man, I'd charge him extra, John. Charge him by the hour.
All right.
Hey, it looks good. Just a little look at what the progress on John's fuse. Snapped it up together, making up the tank box here, and then we're going to go to lunch. For about the 4th time today, we're going to go to lunch. I see in today's mail I got a, looks like a present from Gerald Champy. I got to check that out when I go to do the mail. Hey, we got the wing rough sanded. John's making up the mount for the wing. And the body's coming to life little by little here.
I don't want to use that. You put in there. What is that?
Plywood right up in the front. Money.
Friend doing?
No.
I'm there.
That's good. Are you ready for coffee, John? This is ready. This is framed out. Craig's got some coffee up there. Just want to see what this looks like. We'll think about this at lunchtime. The typical pipe tunnel fuselage. Got the tunnel for the pipe, a la tweener. And then we'll X-member it after we put the top block on. Come on, let's go get coffee, man. You're working me like a mule. This is all ready to rock and roll city, baby. This is the best part about working for Windy and Windy's shop. Look at that. That's what you get paid every week. Oh, man. Good looking pie. Got to get the bada bingers. They're out there sanding. John's body's coming together. Got the pipe tunnel in. Typical pipe tunnel fuse. Typical tsunami. A lot of things happening here, but the most important of all, eat the pizza. Hey, Prost on product. You think I'm a cheap boss. You think, boy, it's hard to get good help, huh? These guys. Come on, let's eat. You can sand this shit. The storm is on its way. We're supposed to get 2 feet of snow tonight.
This is the adventures of Balsa Man.
Balsa Man and Datavio Man. I'm just watching you on the television, boy. Come on, let's eat that pie.
All right.
You want your prostate to explode? Get in here. See, that's the trouble. I pay minimum wage, and when you pay minimum wage in pizza, this is the kind of bullshit you got to deal with. These bonzos. I was just watching you on the television, Datavio. You're a good-looking guy.
Count. That's
Okay, this is John and Wendy gonna, John and George are gonna glass the wing and glue it right to the table so it doesn't come up when it's dry. Dr. Datavio mixing up the enema potion. Oh man, George, unbelievable. Big snow coming tomorrow. You guys better have this wing glassed by the end of the night. We're gonna stay up and finish this wing tonight. Check this body.
It's not the enemy. It's a guy that holds that silver clip.
Check. Oh my God. Check this body. The top block's carved on Datavio's body. All right. Let's get into glassing mode here.
The guy that holds that silver clip has your life in the hand.
Oh God. Don't even remind me. So what are you doing? Starting at the root and then you're going to work your way out to the tip?
Yeah.
At the technology here, this RC technology? Oh my God.
Yeah. That's it. Just hold it right there, George. I get a little bit more over here now and I can flow it right on.
Now what John is doing, he's putting the glass from one strip like we tissue a wing, so that in the middle they'll be double. Double glass, double tissue, double everything. Those wires, for anybody that doesn't, those are only to pull the servo wires through. Jimmy, if John doesn't epoxy the servo wires in place, okay.
We can break them loose. They're no problem.
We never screw up, John.
Nah.
And when we do, we never admit it anyway. So
anyway.
we're always pitching a no-hitter. It's
right.
a lifetime of no-hitters.
That's right. Crazy! Look at what.
Pile it on, pile it on. Get the trowel. Oh, I love it, I love it.
Oh, my
Come
God.
on, pile it on, baby.
Ready?
All right, pile it on. They said you had piles and they were right. Oh, I love it, I love it. Look at this technology at its worst. This is how they built Lindbergh's plane. Oh man, Muffy'd be impressed. Even Mike would be. Ah, speaking of Muffy, there's Muffy.
Oh, no, here he is again.
Oh man. Mike, bring your car in. We'll glass your car while we're doing this.
Using 3 hours?
Just, nah, 2 minutes. 1 minute.
What's going on? What's going on? I don't know.
What time is it now?
Holy Christ, you guys better hurry.
Nah.
Nah, you got 30 seconds. What the hell are you worrying about?
Like if we're gonna ruin anything if we Mike, what are we gonna ruin? Huh?
Get out of
Did you see your pearl flowers? I painted your pearl flowers
They're
before.
beautiful.
They're beautiful,
Thank you.
huh?
Go away with the
Go
camera.
away. Wendy, I love you. You're the greatest husband in the world.
Go
Even
away.
better than most people think. You're even better than that, Wendy.
Goodbye, Wendy.
And so cute,
Goodbye,
too.
Wendy.
What a respect I'm
I
getting.
need stamps and
Stamps? Right over here on the desk.
Stamps and I need an address.
Address. Oh, God, I thought you needed my credit card.
I have my own. I have
You don't want to hit that with the dryer?
Come on,
You're gonna
spread
sit
that
over-
glass out,
When we get it
man.
sanded. All right.
Oh, look at this guy. Unbelievable. You ready for the hair dryer?
Yep.
All right.
All right. Now.
No, it's just coming
Something
around
nice
just to
about
where
this.
we got the leading edge to do.
It,
No wrinkles. Oh, what a job. Oh, my God, what a guy. Big Tsunami lives. Man, John Sandberg must be rolling over in his grave seeing this thing.
yeah. Yeah. I'll get that.
Well, I bet she's happy we're not putting flaps in it.
Oh, yeah. All right. You guys are earning your money tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I think so.
Okay, one whole side of the wing is drying. I got the Tavio's block ready to make the mold. It's all carved up nice. And we're ready to, I'm going to undercut it just a little bit, and we're going to brace that up and make the mold for it. Actually, we get the mold made tonight for that body.
Yeah.
This is the last final sanding before I attach this to the base plate, and we'll have one more mold to add to our arsenal, which this could be used, actually this could be used for a bottom block if you trim the front back. So we're accumulating a good little set of molds. Now we're getting toward the end. We're down the end of this tape. I wanted to show this. This came in a mail from Gerald and Tammy, and Gerald Shamp, of course. And I looked this over, and I'm awestruck how cute this is. This is really some nice little model. Now, he told me these are collector models, and he's got a full set. He's getting a full set, or, well, I hope they come out with a Spitfire one of these days. Look at how nice this is. Now, it's hard to believe this little thing, even though it may look like a child. So look at invasion stripes out of Musco. It has retracts too. Look at this. You can be just like Bob Whiteley. Retracts. Anyway, I am going to put this in a place of honor up on my up in my room where the Lionel trains are, and my model cars and my model trains and whatever. This is really a cool little thing. I love it. Thanks, Gerald. Now this is a picture of Gerald and Tammy at the Pasco Nats where they were irreverently caught trying to hotwire a bulldozer. Anyway, hey, you guys are okay. I don't care what Paul Walker says about you. You guys are okay. Thanks a whole lot. I appreciate it. Anyway, just looking at this again, this is really some cool little model. I'm looking at the invasion stripes here, thinking, Paul Walker, take that. Billy Warwich, take that. Zhang Dung, take that. Shamp, not enough corner. Use a tune pipe, it'll fly better. Forget it. I love these things. Who says we're losing our mind here? Let's check this out. I'm looking at this. This is really a cool thing. It's a bank. Check it out. And if anybody's interested, of course, here's the information. You can steal it right off the video if you're interested in either buying, stealing, shoplifting, or just tell Gerald Shamp, you know, you're going to go down his house and get him busy on a telephone with Paul Walker or something and steal all his models. Hot wire his bulldozer, whatever. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it. Now, everybody that sent Christmas cards in, of course, and we have hundreds of them, I really appreciate all the cards and good wishes. This is from Daryl Harvin. Anyway, and it's a calendar, and he's got it laminated in thin plastic. What a cool idea for some of you guys. Anybody out there owns a print business, you know, you want to do some of these up for me with a nice big Red Baron or a Spitfire or something. Really nice idea. Great. Hey, Adamusco. Good idea. Get some Spitfire laminated calendars. We just covered Daryl's picture. Oh, what a mean guy. Unbelievable. Thanks a lot, Daryl. Just kidding around. By the way, Daryl is really a cool guy. He is one of those people you just can't help but love the guy. He had his first tune pipe, I don't remember, in '90 or whatever, and we all razzle-dazzled him, but he really took it like a man. He really was a cool guy. And last but not least, this is a little gift I got from John Pothier. Now check this out. I didn't even know how this worked. It took me 10 minutes to figure it out. Look out at the end. Look at that little thing move. Now, I just thought, you know, John has been helping me with catalogs, and he's done a million things relating to computers and helping me write articles and stuff, but this is great. Now, check this out.
Hey, John, how you doing? Wendy, get a fax machine, you cheap bastard. Get a fax machine. Anyway, the truth is, after Christmas, I will have a fax machine. So, if anybody out there would like to fax me a $20 bill, just fax it right over.
Ah, Merry Christmas to all of you. This is the end of the tape. The friendships and relationships make this all worthwhile, and I love the Spitfires. I love the bank. I love I love everything around here. I love Big Tsunami. I love my wife. I love my kids. The only thing I don't like is shoveling snow, and I heard we're getting a lot of snow. It's coming tonight. Now we hope you're still in the Christmas spirit, and boy, oh boy, there are things to do in this shop. There's blocks to mold. There's fiberglass cowlings to make. I got the Tavios top block, Big Tsunami wings, Big Tsunami ailerons. Mike Rogers took a spraying lesson doing my radiators last night. It's been a great life. I'll tell you, anybody says I didn't have fun and during this lifetime, they're right. See you on the next tape. And stop stealing bulldozers.